There's a house on Maple Street, 3 bedrooms, small backyard, built in 1987. Nothing fancy. In the year 2000, it sold for $180,000. In 2024, that same house sold for $750,000. Same house, same street, same squeaky back door. What happened? Did the house get bigger? No. Did someone install a pool? No. Did the neighborhood suddenly become magical? Also no. So why did the price go up 4 times higher? The answer isn't what you think. And once you see how it actually works, you'll understand why your parents keep saying things like, "We'll never be able to afford a house," when they look at their phones. Let's figure this out. Right now, all across the country, people are looking at houses they can't buy. Not because they don't have jobs, not because they're lazy, but because something broke in the system. And that breaking happened slowly, so slowly that most people didn't notice until it was too late. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to build this story piece by piece, like a puzzle. Except when we're done, the picture isn't going to be pretty. First, we need to understand what a house price actually is, because it's not what you think. When someone says a house costs $700,000, they don't mean the wood and bricks cost that much. The materials to build that house? Maybe $200,000. Labor? Another $100,000. So where does the other $400,000 come from? It comes from a bet on the future. And that's where things get interesting. Let me show you how buying a house actually works. Quick note before we keep going. This is Sam Antman Finance. The goal here is to explain money and the economy without hype or panic. If that's useful, consider subscribing. Imagine you want to buy a lemonade stand. It costs $100, but you only have $10 in your piggy bank. So you go to a grown-up, maybe a bank, and you say, "Can I borrow $90? I promise I'll pay you back, little by little, every week." The bank says yes, but there's a catch. They don't just want their $90 back. They want extra money on top. That extra money is called interest. It's the price you pay for borrowing. Now let's make this real. A house costs $750,000. Most people don't have that much money, so they borrow it from a bank. That loan is called a mortgage, and most people spend 30 years paying it back. Here's the wild part. By the time they're done paying, they don't pay $750,000. They pay closer to $1,200,000 because of interest. The bank makes almost $500,000 just for lending the money. Now you might be thinking, okay, that sounds expensive, but people have been doing this forever. Why are houses suddenly so much more expensive now? Great question. This is where the story gets strange. For a long time, borrowing money was expensive. If you wanted a mortgage in the 1980s, the interest rate was around 15%. That's huge. It meant borrowing money was hard. So people couldn't borrow as much, which meant they couldn't pay as much for houses, so house prices stayed lower. But then something changed. Starting in the early 2000s, the people in charge of money, the Federal Reserve, they started making borrowing cheaper, way cheaper. Interest rates went down to 5%, then 3%. After 2020, they dropped to almost nothing, 2%, sometimes less. Suddenly, borrowing money felt easy, like free money. So more people wanted to borrow. And when more people can borrow more money, they can pay more for houses. Think about it like an auction. 10 people are bidding on a house. Everyone has $10. The house sells for $10. Now imagine everyone suddenly has $100. What happens? The price goes up. Not because the house changed, but because people can pay more. That's what happened in real life. Cheap money meant higher prices. But there's another piece, and this one's weird. At the same time borrowing got easier, something else happened. We stopped building enough houses. After the 2008 crash, construction companies got scared. They stopped building as many homes, and they never really caught up. Right now, America is short about 4 million homes. 4 million. That's like an entire city's worth of houses just missing. So we have more people who can borrow more money, chasing fewer houses. What happens when lots of people want something and there isn't enough of it? The price explodes. It's like if there were only 5 birthday cakes in the whole town and 50 kids wanted one. the price of cake would go crazy. But wait, there's more. Some people started buying houses not to live in them, but as investments. They thought, house prices keep going up, so I'll buy 3 houses and sell them later for more money. Big companies did this too. They bought thousands of houses, not to live in, just to make money. Now you have regular families competing against millionaires and corporations. And guess who wins that fight? Let's do some math. But don't worry, it's simple math, the kind that makes you feel uncomfortable. The median household income in America is about $75,000 a year. That means half of families make less than that. Financial experts say you shouldn't spend more than 30% of your income on housing. So if you make $75,000 a year, you can afford to spend about $22,000 on housing per year. That's about $1,800 a month. With an $1,800 monthly payment and today's interest rates around 7%, you can afford a house that costs around $300,000. But remember that house on Maple Street? $750,000. The math doesn't work, not even close. So what do people do? Some give up on buying. They rent forever. Some move to cheaper cities, away from their jobs and families. Some borrow money from parents. Some take on debt they can't really afford and just hope things work out. And some people, especially young people, just accept that they'll never own a house. It's not part of their future anymore. That's the quiet part nobody likes to say out loud. For the first time in generations, owning a home might not be normal anymore. It might become something only rich people do. Now zoom out. What happens to a country when most people can't afford homes? People get angry. They feel stuck. They stop spending money on other things because rent takes everything. Small businesses suffer. People delay having kids. They can't save money. They feel like the system is rigged against them. And here's the ironic part. The people who already own houses love this. Their home values keep going up. They feel rich, but their own kids can't afford to buy a house in the same neighborhood they grew up in. So we have this weird situation where high house prices make some people happy and crush everyone else. And nobody knows how to fix it. Build more houses? Sure, but that takes years. Lower prices? Great, but then people who just bought houses lose money and get angry. Keep prices high? Then young people are locked out forever. There's no easy answer. Every solution hurts someone. So back to Maple Street, that house that went from $180,000 to $750,000. Was it worth it? Did it get better? Not really. It just existed in the right place at the right time, while money got cheap and houses got scarce. And now it sits there, worth $750,000 on paper, while the family that wants to buy it looks at their savings account and realizes they're not even close. The house didn't change, but the world around it did. And the strangest part? Everyone keeps saying this is normal, that this is just how things are now. As if 400% price increases in 20 years make sense. As if locking out an entire generation is fine. Maybe it is normal now. Or maybe we just got used to something that's quietly breaking everything. The question isn't whether houses are expensive. They are. The question is what happens when an entire generation realizes the door is closed. And nobody seems to know the answer to that yet. If this helped you think a little more clearly about what's going on, that's what Sam Antman Finance is for. No predictions, no panic, just understanding. Subscribe if you want more of that.